Hey there folks, Tim Slade here, and in this video, I wanted to provide you 3 simple tips for working with your stakeholders and subject matter experts on your learning projects. You know, the thing about working with your stakeholders and subject matter experts is that you need each other. They have the information you need to solve their problems. But when you have misaligned expectations, or if you're not speaking the same language, I can certainly tell you from experience that any project you're working on can quickly go off the rails. So here are my 3 tips for working with your stakeholders and subject matter experts while also maintaining your sanity. Tip number 1, help them understand the design and development process. You know, when you've been working as an instructional designer or as an e-learning developer for any amount of time, it's easy to forget that folks outside of our industry have little or no contextual awareness about what it is that we do. And it's because of this, the onus is really on us to help our stakeholders understand our processes and, more importantly, where they fit into them. For example, when I'm working with a client that's unfamiliar with e-learning development, I use simple analogies to help them understand each step along the way. I explain how a storyboard is like a blueprint for a house, how a prototype is like a 3D mock-up, and how development is like the construction process. What you don't want to do is shield them from the process. Instead, bring them along for the ride. Okay, tip number 2, help them understand good learning design. You know, the thing about your subject matter experts is that they want everyone, especially your learners, to be as knowledgeable about their thing as they are. However, as learning professionals, we know that's not only unreasonable, it's also unrealistic and more often than not, unnecessary. And it's because of this, it's our job to help our SMEs understand good learning design. Whether you're designing an e-learning course, an instructor-led workshop, or just a simple job aid, it's important that you take the time and educate your stakeholders and subject matter experts about what's going to make for the most effective learning experience. That means emphasizing the importance of designing learning that improves performance rather than just knowledge alone. And the truth is, there's no better way to convince them of this than to tie your learning and performance goals to their business goals. Alright, so my 3rd and final tip is to enable them to make the big decisions. More often than not, your stakeholders and subject matter experts will always ask for the moon, and they'll want you to have delivered it like last week. And the challenge many of us find ourselves in is figuring out the nicest, least offensive way to say the dreaded word of no. And unfortunately, what many of us end up doing is begrudgingly saying yes, and then taking on the responsibility and burden of their unreasonable ask. So how can you stop making their problems your problems, and in turn encourage them to make the big decisions? Well, the secret is by letting them know the cost of entry for what they're asking for, and rather than saying no, you say yes and. Let me show you how. When they ask, can you build that e-learning course in a week? You say, sure, I can build that in a week, and it'll mean deprioritizing these other projects of yours. What are your thoughts on that? When they ask, can we include live action video? You say, of course we can include live action video, and it'll require us to hire a film crew. What's your budget for that? And then when they ask, can you build both courses at the same time? You say, sure, of course we can build both courses at the same time, and it'll mean the quality won't be as good. Are you okay with that? Now, does this method work every time? Well, no, of course not. However, you might discover your stakeholders and subject matter experts are more willing to negotiate than you might have thought. Alright, so those are my 3 tips for working with your stakeholders and subject matter experts. Although it's not always easy, remember what I said at the top of the video. You and your stakeholders, you need each other. They have the information you need to solve their problems. Okay, until next time, I'll see you around.